So I am Chris J. Reid. I like to think of myself as the only entrepreneur and founder in Singapore with a mohawk. I run several little companies, Black Marketing, Dark Art of Marketing, Mohawk Marketing, appropriately enough, Chris J. Reid Mastery, and our latest brand, Spark, which is all about Tinder, how you can find love by using LinkedIn. So primary focus of the overall kind of little empire, what I call little empire of Black and Dark and so forth, is basically you. It's all about how you can make yourself a greater personal brand to help you achieve your goals. Whether they are getting a better job, whether running your company, whether being a thought leader, whether being on stage, it's basically enabling you to do this, whether it's through LinkedIn or whether it's through YouTube or just basically getting your book out there, getting your thoughts out there. It's basically all about you. I started Black in Singapore, but actually most of Black's clients are not actually in Singapore. They're in places like Hong Kong, they're in places like Sydney, they're in Manila, they're in Bangkok, they're in Shanghai, they're in Guangzhou, they're in Shenzhen, because everyone needs LinkedIn. Everyone needs to enhance a personal brand. My journey all really started with my granddad. When I was 9 years old, 10 years old, he actually mentored me. And he actually told me when I was 9 years old, he told me this wonderful little thing, said, it's not what you know, Chris, it's actually who you know. I used a lot of that in my first job when I worked for HMV in a shop, just serving people at 16 years old because I was passionate about music. And then I worked in a nightclub. And then I realized that I lived in a little place called Newcastle, which basically no one has any jobs there at all in marketing, so you have to leave. So I went to London, bright lights, gold and all the rest of it, and worked for the amazing Hammersmith Odeon, which is a concert venue. And my job was the best job in the world. It remains the best job I've ever had because I got to meet every single star that ever performed there as part of my job to welcome them to Hammersmith Odeon and say, thanks Bob Dylan, thanks for coming, thanks Ringo Starr for coming, thanks Take That for coming, and will you sign this book and will you take a picture? And I worked 24/7 because I did the marketing during the day and I met and saw the concerts at night. But what I loved is seeing the different communities that came in. And unfortunately, they sold the company to Apollo Group and that all ended there. And I went to seek my fortune in work for radio stations. So radio stations were all about local community. I worked for lots of radio stations across the north of England and the south of England, learning about communities. So radio stations took me a lot, gave me a great insight into how people actually listen and see radio stations as part of their community. And the reason why radio stations are still popular to this day is not because of the music, because you have Spotify for the music. It's actually the community aspect. Then I went more mainstream. I went into corporates and I went to work for Take a Break and TV Quick and those kind of like mass markets publications, which are all about the community. Then I went for the Times. So I went from one part of the socio-economic group of the UK to another. Went for the Times and the Sunday Times. But I quickly realized that my job was being a diplomat. And as everyone knows, I am not a diplomat. So I decided pretty quickly I needed to move on to something pretty dynamic. And that's where I needed to also earn a bit of money because I was living in London. So it was a very expensive place to actually learn. And therefore, I really needed to say, look, this is make or break. I was 31 years old, 30 years old, needed to kind of say, I'm going to be an entrepreneur. Now's the time. So I actually joined Rivals. Rivals very much about aggregating fan sites. So the fans are the most passionate people in the whole of the world. They don't want corporate sites. They actually want to talk to other fans. So we actually brought all the fan sites together for football, for rugby, for cricket, even for cycling. And it was beautiful in the way that actually you brought communities together and you had real debates you never got in the mainstream media at all. It's very much down to earth. It's what real people were actually saying in the real world. So the beauty and the empowerment of what I learned about Rivals is it's all about community and coming together. And that was absolutely phenomenal until they ran out of money because there was a .com and the .com crash happened. And that was the time I thought I have to be an entrepreneur. That was the time I needed to basically put the lessons of corporate life together and actually become an entrepreneur and start my own business, which is what I did. So I learned a huge amount during my corporate life. The first 10 years, 12 years were about corporate life. And I looked at every single lesson. And more importantly, I listened to what my granddad said about who you know, not what you know. And every single person who I worked with during my 20s became a client when I actually launched my business. And it gave me a great lesson. And it is all about who you know and not what you know, because if I hadn't maintained those relationships, I wouldn't be able to get those clients. And you can only build businesses because you are maintaining your relationships. You are actually taking time to actually have a drink with someone or listen to somebody or engage with somebody and actually listen to what they want and actually see other business opportunities as a result of that. So the great financial crisis, 2008, 2009, really rocked me as an entrepreneur. I actually thought I need light, I need sun, I need somewhere to appreciate an entrepreneur. So I looked at the Far East, I looked at Hong Kong, I looked at Singapore, and I chose Singapore. I came to Singapore, not knowing a single person there, but wanting to learn my lessons and learn about how to do business in Asia. I loved it. I fell in love with it. Singapore instantly. Its weather, its people, the atmosphere when it comes to entrepreneurialism. I love the way that it's very much about the whole of Asia Pacific. People look outwardly, not inwardly. It's all about, looking out for opportunities. And I learned so much by actually coming here and actually realizing my dream. So when I was in London, I never really used LinkedIn. I had a couple of hundred connections, but I realized that if I was going to Singapore, I needed to actually realize those LinkedIn connections in London and ask them, who do you know in Singapore? And sure enough, they knew people in Singapore. And then I got offered jobs through LinkedIn, my first, my second, my third jobs through LinkedIn, the power of networking through LinkedIn. And those jobs were BD jobs and marketing jobs across the whole of Asia Pacific. I didn't know anybody in the whole of Asia Pacific. And suddenly I'm using LinkedIn and going, well, if you can find people on LinkedIn for jobs, you can find them to pitch them to marketing directors and CMOs and CEOs. And suddenly I was pitching people in China, in India, in Japan, and Indonesia, and Australia by using the power of LinkedIn. That's where I really got the idea that a couple of years later, I might have some kind of business around LinkedIn, but I didn't know so at the time. Obviously, I had an amazing journey in Singapore, but it wasn't all plain sailing. I had lots of ups and downs. I had real catalysts of not being paid by people, which was really the catalyst to start black marketing. I literally had to sell my house in the UK to fund the last couple of jobs I had because I wasn't being paid, and to fund black marketing. And then I had to realize, I had to back myself in terms of, will I find a client? And where will I be? I had to basically leverage one of my clients. I worked in their office space. And those are the things that entrepreneurs have to think about. It's like, do you need a desk? And, do you need employees? I was doing reasonably well for the first 9 months, thinking this is quite nice. I'm able to pay myself because these people pay their bills. And then thinking, do I want to employ people? And that was the biggest step change for me, is really thinking, do I want to employ people and take on all that responsibility again? Because I've done it several times in the UK, and thinking, if I'm doing it in Asia, what do I know about things? What do I know about people and the law? What do I know about employment law and practicing and so forth? And also the extra costs of employing people. And the extra cost of looking after them in terms of things like medical care. People don't tell you about the unsexy things of being an entrepreneur. Think about all the costs and all the, the CPF. It's like, oh, what's this CPF thing? And suddenly realize I need an accountant to worry about the CPF, which I got pretty quickly because I thought I need someone to help me out on this side of things and someone to help me with websites and looking at all these opportunities. And then it itself has lots of ups and downs. Being an entrepreneur is not plain sailing. You have bad debts. And no one's covering those bad debts apart from you. You are totally responsible for those bad debts. So judging who's going to pay you and who's not going to pay you is key to being an entrepreneur, being a successful entrepreneur. When I was launching Black and I was starting to employ people, I realized I needed to grow. I needed to basically take it to the next level. We were picking up clients from places like Australia and Hong Kong. So I pretty quickly realized that you couldn't just be in Singapore to grow the market. And TMG was part of that because they promised the ability to actually scale as well. And their vision is fantastic to this day. Just the way they put it together wasn't the best way of actually doing it. And it had fantastic ups and downs. I was able to look at share price and it was amazing. But then when they started going down, I was looking at it going, oh my God, what have I actually done? And then obviously you have detractors, you have people, you have criticism and so forth. And that's fine. That's part of the game. It's part of buying and selling. And it is part of the whole dream that we actually had about actually being self-sustaining, but dreams don't always come to fruition. So that is a fantastic lesson on the fact that, I'm not very good at politics, as I mentioned before, and I wasn't very good at politics as TMG. So I'm very happy that people don't like that side of things. So obviously when things were going badly wrong at TMG and I resigned from TMG, I wanted to start again and take control. And I realized pretty quickly there was a massive market for individuals who want to enhance their own personal branding, and we could help them. So pretty quickly, Dark started to take off. And then we launched Mohawk Marketing, which helps people on TripAdvisor. And then we had the Masterclass brand, because I get asked more and more brands. People ask me to actually do masterclasses about how to use LinkedIn. And then our latest brand is our Tinder brand, is our fun brand. It's how you can find love through adding professionals and doing a professional profile on LinkedIn and on Tinder to make sure you're talking to a genuine person. So all these 5 ideas are anchored in LinkedIn. They all come back to LinkedIn. And my team here, now 32 strong in Singapore, actually all mostly Singaporeans, all helping people actually realize their dreams. So the future is very, very bright because of the fact that LinkedIn's growing in Asia, and Asia is the fastest growing region in the world when it comes to LinkedIn. Amazing growth and amazing opportunities for people to really realize their dreams by actually using what is always there, just a community. LinkedIn's very much about realizing everybody's dreams, and we can make it happen.